right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of the Open Door Podcast. I'm Chelsea.
Sir. I'm Bedford.
And we are super excited to go into our third of 5 episodes on the exact same topic, talking about race, diversity, inclusion, how to talk to your kids about those things. But you have some openers first.
I do. For the random things I found in the news, the unnecessarily long named segment on this podcast.
Yeah.
I got a couple of things. Okay, so first things first, TikTok is back.
I mean, like it never left, right?
We might have talked about it leaving for longer than it was gone. Like, I think I went to bed. I was like, oh, snap, it's gone. I woke up. I was like, hey, ain't that something?
Yeah.
I think it was back before lunch.
Yeah. What a freaking roller coaster. The thing for me is that, so I had posted something on my stories, essentially just saying like, I'm so sorry for my friends that have lost their communities, right? And I got so many messages from people saying like, I'm unfollowing, this is out of touch. There's so many things going on in the world that are a bigger deal than TikTok.
There's fires in LA.
Exactly. And I just ignored them for the most part, because if you aren't capable of being empathetic for multiple situations at a time, then that's cool.
Yeah, which I mean, we're not.
I'm not ignoring the fires in LA. I've donated.
I'm sorry for
we've
you
done
guys.
this stuff, but it's like, it's so heartbreaking, but you can be sad for multiple things at a time. And so I had a conversation with someone where I was like, this is my full-time job. This is how I pay all my bills. This is how I pay for my house. This is how I put food on the table. She was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you could actually make a living out of this. She was like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Right. She was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, and she's like, I just didn't know. So anyway, but like, it just, it's back, and it's supposed to be back for like, I don't know, 75 days or something, like that. 90 days.
Probably like 72 or 60 by now. I don't know. But
yeah. No.
Like, it'll be back for a little bit. They'll turn it off and then turn it right back on.
I mean,
then, boom.
We can all like, and then we'll get another message saying like, President Trump saved the day.
How about that?
Like, can we just talk about how weird that was?
Yeah.
I don't think that their "we're back" message needed to say that. Like,
I'm just saying,
been like,
if they were concerned about manipulating people's thoughts on the election and all that stuff, you couldn't have found a more aggressive way to prove them right.
Yes, especially because President Trump is the one that said he was going to get rid of TikTok in the first place.
Yeah, like that was like, what, 5-6 years ago? He's the one that said he was going to get rid of it. And then they got rid of it. And then he is like, look at me, I saved 171 million jobs. And it's like, wait, what? Like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I might be now. Ain't that, becoming a hero for solving a problem you caused?
Yeah. Yes. What is that? I don't know what that is. It's like the nurses that like put people under and they're like headed down, and then all of a sudden the nurses save their lives. Like, it's like a hero complex.
Nah, you know what it is? It's like Megamind. You remember Megamind?
Yeah.
And the bad guy who he throws the reporter around, and he's like,
look at me saving you.
Look at me saving you. It's so romantic.
I saved your life. Yes, that's
and
totally
he's a redhead. So,
like,
that might be the correlation right there.
Cause the problem just so that you can fix it. Freaking crazy talk.
It's insane.
Absolutely ridiculous.
But that's nuts. And all the while we got these other issues. Like, come on, healthcare still sucks. There's just another school shooting like 2 days ago. Like, what are we doing?
Nothing.
What are we doing? Like, it's crazy, man. Like, I'm highly disappointed in being an American. I think I'm going to continue to be disappointed too, because I can't afford to leave. So it is what it is.
It's hard too, because the school shooter in Nashville said that he was inspired by 2 other school shooters from 2024. And like, you would be inspired by that if they didn't work. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be like, oh, like this was this grand, but like they worked, and it's just like, it needs to not be as easy.
Yeah, this is getting old. So let's come up with a solution for that.
Focus on some things that matter.
Let's leave TikTok alone.
Let's leave the Gulf of Mexico alone.
Yeah,
come on. Way more problems than that. Let's just.
What are we focusing on?
We
done took enough from Mexico already.
Yeah, let's just move on. Let's just leave those alone. Let's let the Gulf just be its thing.
Yeah.
And then let's just move on. Like,
how many globes are going to have to just get thrown away so that we could just rename the thing to Gulf of...
My gosh.
Get out of here.
There's a million things, and then that's the thing. I don't know. Wild business. If
that really happens...
Y'all, I don't really...
it's gonna happen.
Bedford and I have like some really passionate opinions about politics.
But we don't really share them.
We don't really share them. We talk with like our families sometimes and like each other. But in my experience, anybody that is trying to talk to you about politics, like nobody is talking. They're not having the conversation to listen. They're just having the conversation to convince you to change your mind. And I am so over that I just stopped talking about politics a long time ago. So you'll never see politics really on my platform. We don't really we could go into a million conversations here, but we're not going to. But let's just
fix some problems, okay? Look, I'm a side with Butters, okay? You remember Butters from South Park?
I hate South Park, but right? Yes.
Orgullo, okay?
Yeah.
You heard about Mexican ice cream? Let's talk about Mexican pride.
Yeah. My gosh.
I got that Mexican pride, man. We can keep it Mexico.
The Gulf of Mexico.
Orgullo, estoy con ustedes, okay, mis amigos. Okay,
estoy con ustedes. But Bedford does.
Yeah, puedo hablar español.
Yeah, well, that's good because we have kids in Spanish immersion that need that. So
yeah, I hate doing long math. What do they call them? Like
I don't even
math
know.
word problems.
Can we also talk about that because my kids, I don't know how to do their math.
Yeah, it's a load of crap. You got to be doing lines and boxes.
To do it? It just doesn't it doesn't make sense that we even really needed to change it in the first place.
It was working just fine the way it was before.
Yeah,
I think we changing it just to keep teachers teaching.
I honestly was like watching a YouTube video about how to do the math so that I could teach my son to do the math. Yeah. I didn't even understand the YouTube video. He's 10.
We were using sticks and dots. And I'm like, this is supposed to be division. And
no, what did he do the other day that we were like, what the heck is going on here?
It got to the point where I was like, you got the right answer, bro. We're going to use an app. Like, you're going to be using smart everything to figure out your math problems. Yeah, but then they're like, show your work. And I'm like, gosh, dang. Can we get past that? Like,
I don't know. It's like in The Incredibles, too, where he's like, math is math.
It doesn't change.
And we're like, I didn't feel it that deeply until now, but now I feel it that deeply.
Oh, it hurts my soul. I can't.
I think at that time, Riker was a baby. Well, he was like 3 and Jax was maybe 6. So it's not like we had really any experience with the new math formats, but math is math. And I was just like, yeah,
and
that's
it's different
funny,
than it was when our 13-year-old was doing it too, I feel like.
Yes. I mean, kind of. I feel like Jax is really good at math. He loves math. It's his favorite subject. He tried to help Riker with something the other day and he's like, yeah, I don't know what you're doing. Yeah. Like, what are we doing? I don't know.
So we're going to change up the math every 2.5 years and change the name of the Gulf of Mexico. But
pay $6 for a carton of eggs. Perfect. Okay.
It's about right. It's about right.
All right.
It's crazy. Priorities all jacked up.
Seriously. Okay, are we ready to rock and roll?
We ready to rock. Let's roll.
Okay, so if you are just tuning in for this episode, we have been talking about how to talk to your kids about race, diversity, inclusion, and how to do that appropriately in an age-based format. Last week, we talked about ages 0 to 4, so birth to 4. This week, we are talking about ages 5 to 9. And so this week is a good one because kids are entering school. And we had to talk about some of the experiences that kids are having at school, especially because, we see it firsthand with our kids. And then Bedford obviously grew up here. He actually went to the exact same elementary school that our kids go to. Mm-hmm. And so we can have some of those conversations about experiences and then maybe some ways to teach your children to adapt.
First off, I gotta get at somebody. Okay. So someone on one of our posts posted, we got to stop talking about race because it doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
no, he said, this is why racism is still real, because you guys keep talking about it.
I see you, white man. All right. We know it was a burner account. Ain't got no followers. Ain't following nobody. I see you. I see what you're trying to do. Not slipping one past me.
No, but people say that all the time. People will say, I don't talk to my kids about it because I don't want to make something out of nothing. Like, if they didn't see it or if they're not feeling it, I don't want them to, be giving attention to something that they would never have, known about. And it's like, that's not a real thing.
It's like saying, like, we got to stop talking about eating healthy because obesity ain't real. Like, if we stop talking about it, it ain't going to go away. You got to do healthy things to keep it going.
Yes. And the reality is that, like, for me, I didn't really talk about race or whatever. And we always say this, you don't know what you don't know until you know, and then you can do better, right? And I don't think that my parents really, like, had any experiences to where they were like, we need to talk to our kids about this. But I don't feel like I grew up racist, but I most certainly grew up
naive,
jaded. Yes. Like, I had no idea what experiences were like for other people. So I mean, you talk about it and your kids either like end up in a spot where they're painting themselves black and pretending to be a prisoner for Halloween, and you just had no freaking clue that your kid was even capable of that because you don't talk about it, or you don't talk about it and your kid just grows up feeling like everything's
hunky-dory.
Cool.
And then goes and perpetuates, hey, nothing ever bad ever happens. Like, quit playing games. Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I'm going to post it. I'm gonna attach your comments to the clip too.
Let's do it.
We're going to see you when we see you. Quit hiding behind the burner account.
That's like, I mean, I've talked about that on here before, and people were so bothered by it. Like, they're like, she's so annoying. But I just hate when, like, the fact that people can say whatever they want on the internet. I'm actually one of those people, and I'm just going to say it right now. If I can find you, I will find you, and I will send your racist comments to your boss.
Look, Chelsea's got a unique set of skills. And it's happened several times. Like, she ain't playing no games.
Nope. A couple of years
ago.
Don't
you even invite Q to the party. Q's different.
Yeah, no.
She kind of scary.
So my best friend, she will hunt you down. I'm not joking.
She gonna find your mom. Of those, like, she gonna find your sisters.
She knows your address. Yeah, like, it's a whole nother level. But here's the thing. A couple of years ago, I had this guy comment, and I'm just going to give you a warning right now that this comment is a little bit like...
It might get bleeped out. We'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's fine. We can bleep it out. And but a guy commented on a video of my son and said, how would it feel to have pubes for hair? And I looked at his page, and he was a child psychologist. And I said, absolutely not,
Not
sir.
Anymore, you're not.
I hunted him down. I sent that because at that time, my child was in therapy. And all I could think about was my son going to therapy and having somebody that was speaking that way about children like him online, and how they could possibly care about my child. And so I found him, and I emailed his boss, and he was fired. So I'm sick of this era of, like, I can say whatever I want online and there's no consequences, because if I can deliver consequences for you, I will.
Yep.
Like,
best of luck to you. Keep the burner account.
I hold grudges. Okay.
Not like I do. No. I'm different. Look, I'm the passive, peaceful. I'm a teddy bear, but, like, you get on the wrong side, that's it. That's all. You don't exist.
You don't get a lot of
and there's not a second chance. There's not a third chance. Like, if you ain't blooded, it's over. Like, I ain't got to deal with it.
And I am very, like, if it is, even if you are blood, it's over. I don't.
Yeah, but you'll fix it. Like, I don't even care to fix it. Yeah, like, you're like, oh, we'll eventually get to it better. And I'm like, nah, we won't. You don't exist.
Yeah. So this week we are going into school, right? So 5 years old, they're going into kindergarten, and a lot of, which I also just want to preface something really fast. I got a comment from someone last week that said, you should let your husband talk more. Totally a fair comment. Go ahead.
I got nothing to say right now.
Yeah, of course not.
But thank you for looking out. Okay. Chelsea likes to talk a lot. Okay.
I do. And I feel like these ones are extra difficult for me because I wrote these courses and I taught them live. And so all of the information is, like, on my computer. So I have a hard time trying to figure out, like, where do I break it's
a life struggle for her. Okay.
Yeah.
She just is a talker, and it's okay.
But listen, it's okay. I'm working on it. Sometimes I'll, like, cut him off. The other day we were listening to it back, and I cut him off, and I was like, shut up, to myself.
She do be cutting me off. Yep. That's okay.
I'm trying. I'm going to work on it.
Maybe. It's just who you are. It's part of who you are. And that's okay. We love you for who you are.
Okay. All right. Let's move on.
Just like I poke fun at you, everybody actually. Look, we're not perfect, but you're perfect for me.
Good. Yeah, that's a good thing.
There you go.
All right. What is the number one thing that parents say as an excuse to not talk to their young children about race.
We talked about this last week. They're inherently good, blah, blah, blah. They don't see it. I saw one video one time. Yeah. Same thing. Same old, same old.
Okay. So I looked up the statistics for it, and 33% of elementary age students report legitimate cases of bullying. So in order for something to be categorized as a legitimate case of bullying through the education system, it has to be persistent, aggressive, and there has to be like an imbalance of power there. So one student, it has to be like going towards one student over and over and over again in order for it to be classified as a legitimate case. So 33% of elementary age students are reporting legitimate cases of bullying, which honestly in itself is so concerning.
That's a heap of bullying.
That's a lot.
I got to ask a question though. All right. Now we're talking about something serious now. This is kind of a serious question, but kind of not.
Of course.
Would you prefer your kid to be bullied or be the bully? You know where I stand.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I feel like I would prefer for my children to be neither.
You don't get a choice. You got to pick.
The hard thing for me is that I want to say bully, right? Because that's the safest for my child. But at the same time, as a mother, I can't, as a mother of a child that has been being bullied, I have a hard time thinking about my child causing that for another child too. It's so hard for me.
I'm going to easily say I want my kid to be the bully. Yeah. I'm going to tell you why. Because it wouldn't be the safest for my kid. Like, let's call it a spade a spade. They would be putting themselves at risk. Daddy ain't going to play that. Okay? There's nothing I can do if you're being bullied. Look, you got to stand up for yourself. I could try to talk to the teachers. They ain't going to do nothing. There's a reason it's happening to begin with.
Yeah.
But it's way easier for me to be like, yeah, do that again. If I hear about it, we cooking.
Yeah.
Old school or new school. Some of both.
Yeah. So 20% of kindergartners report legitimate cases of frequent bullying. 20% of kindergartners.
That's
yes.
crazy.
And this is just in the United States.
That's 1 in 5.
Yeah. So just in the United States. Now, despite accounting for 15% of the public school population nationwide, Black children and teenagers account for 35% of legitimate bullying reports.
So that sounds like there's a disproportionate.
Correct. Even though there's less Black children
in the school program, they count for more than a fourth. Almost more than twice the amount of Black. So you're 2 times more likely to get bullied if you're Black.
Correct. Right. And we talked about this last week. It's some of it, especially at such a young age, is completely unintentional, right? They just don't understand. They don't know why you look different. Yeah. They just kind of assume, like, again, the concept of transactive reasoning, like, oh, well, if you look like that and I look like this, we probably don't like the same things. We probably wouldn't, get along. Right. And so we are going to maybe talk about some things that are maybe common missteps. If I had to ask you to think of a phrase that a lot of white people use that they think is like really positive and productive in terms of race.
Oh, yeah. They're going to say something like, we don't see color.
Yeah.
Every time. We don't see color. Yeah. It's like, okay.
Yes.
That means you do see color.
Yes.
And it's okay to see color. Like, I see color.
Absolutely.
But like, actually want you to embrace it. Love it. It's different than we're not going to hide it, sweep it under the rug. Like, let's embrace color.
Right. And I think that, because like, I don't ever remember my parents saying like, oh, well, we're colorblind or I don't see color. That's not how I was raised. But there are adults that say that. There's, actually, we watched a movie. It's a kid's movie.
I don't remember.
And he's like, I actually don't see color. Oh, no, it's in Wicked. She's green. And he's like, I don't even see color, right? It's like, it's a very common thing for people to say. And they think that they're saying the right thing. Like, they think that they're saying like, oh, well, we all are the same, right? But realistically, when you're saying it, instead of it feeling like what you're saying is we love everyone no matter what they look like, it could be perceived as we love everyone even though they look different than us. Because you would never say we don't see color about another white person. And it's genuinely mostly white people that use that phrase.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So you would never say to your
I would
child,
never
like,
go to like a Latina or a Latino and be like, hey, my friend, ¿cómo estamos? Right? Because I already said that we rolling with Mexico.
Yeah.
And be like, I don't see color though.
Yeah. It doesn't, you say it, it's mostly white people. And they wouldn't walk up, like, they're not going to tell their child about another white person. Like, we love that person because we don't see color. Because it's unnecessary. They look like them, right? Yeah. So when you really look at the concept, you're just saying we love them even though they don't look like us. Yeah. And that
despite
totally
the fact that they don't look like us. And it seems,
Right. And so it causes, I mean, and like diversity is something that should be celebrated, right? Not like removing that from people, and instead of like taking that, because that is like part of who people are, right? It's like their culture, it's their heritage, it's what their ancestors looked like, it's where they came from. And so you're removing that from them essentially just to, you know, try to teach your children that we're all the same and all of those things. So,
and to a degree, we kind of are. I remember seeing a reel. You remember seeing this where there's a black guy and he's like, look, white people don't exist. Right. And so he's like, I'm a brown guy. And then this person is light brown.
Right.
Because this is white. And this is white. This ain't white. You know what I'm saying? Like, It's like we all different levels of brown.
Right. Well, and I also saw this other video sometime last year. And it was, I don't know if you saw it, but it was a black man that was painting his face black, like with a black paint.
I don't think I saw this.
He was like, I'm not black. Like, this is black, right? However, people came unglued and they were
because there are darker people, but
yes. People came unglued but they were like, it's not necessarily, I don't know. I think it is just one of those things where, sure, are we all different shades of something? Yes, you know. But ultimately, it's one of those like teaching your children that diversity is more than just skin color, right? It's body size, body shape, hair, eyes, all of those things.
Ability, like mental as well, like all the physical, like it's completely different.
Family dynamics,
all
you know,
of it.
Like who you are raised by, all of those things. I remember our oldest son used to go to a friend's house while we worked full time. And I remember the first time that so Jax had asked his friend, they were like 3. And he was like, when do you go to your dad's house? And his friend was like, this is my dad's house. And he was like, when do you go to your mom's house? And he's like, this is my mom's house. And Jax was like, this can't be your mom's house and your dad's house. And he was so upset. And my friend was like, this was really eye-opening for me to have a conversation with my child about family dynamics, right? And I was like, well, obviously for me too, because my son's the one that's losing it.
And he thought that it was normal.
Yeah, like everybody goes back and forth to their moms and dads' houses.
No, not everybody.
And so we had to sit down and have a conversation about that. Like, no, not everybody does, you know?
Families look different and yours looks like this and that's the way it is. And unfortunately, like, for him, that's not a plus. That's not a benefit in differences. Like, that's something that's very difficult for him to maintain, and it continues to be tough. But yeah, every family looks different, and you win some, you lose others. And we do the best we can with what we got, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what are some things that you could teach your children instead of saying, we just don't see color?
I think you could teach them where it comes from.
Sure.
I always have that conversation when I see kids. Like, look, this is what color is.
Yeah.
Like, we're all different shades. Where did the shades come from? You're not the same shade as your parents, most likely. There's some times where you are. But, like, we all have these different shades. Where does it come from? We could go into the science of it. What happens when the sun comes out? We get darker, we get lighter. What is that? Yeah. And when you start to understand, you're like, okay, we're just on the spectrum. You know, we're not any different. We're just on a different shade. That's all.
I think that white people tend to stray away from the word melanin just because they feel like it's not, either they are uneducated about melanin themselves or they don't know that their children would understand. Mm-hmm. But realistically, there are a lot of words that your children understand. I mean, my 3-year-old can navigate my cell phone. I'm sure that she can understand melanin at the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I think that that's a good place
where
to start.
Where pigment comes from.
Right. Like, this is what because I have freckles, right? So I've actually talked to my kids and said, like, my freckles are melanin. So it's just the way that my skin is and the way that melanin is distributed across my skin, right? So teaching children that it's just the way that your body reacts to the sun and, you know, how much melanin your body has, et cetera, is like the amount of melanin determines different shades of skin, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
And then also, like, you know, you can go into, if you're religious, you can say, like, you know, this is how God created these people. Like, everybody was made to look different because the world is more beautiful when we all look different. Absolutely. It would be so boring.
If you're not, you can still have that conversation. Just leave out the God part, right? Like, the world's more, like, if you had the same everything, it wouldn't be fun to look at.
Yeah.
The reason why we go to the zoo is because there's different things to look at than we can normally see.
Yeah,
right?
If you just went and looked at 25 different exhibits of elephants.
Zebra or elephants.
Yeah.
Elephants would still be cool, but zebras, you'd be like,
or like a monkey. It's like, okay, cool. You know, it's like, why are we doing this? Yeah. So I think that I've also seen people use object lessons for their children to be able to show them, like, you know, I have a bunch of white markers or like marbles, and then I have a red one. And like, which one do you see the most? Like, which one do you think is the prettiest? And children generally will be like, oh, the red one. They're drawn to the red one, right? Because the red one is different in this, like, you know, bowl of white ones or a plate of white ones. And so when you take the time to talk to children about, like, how pretty it is to have it be different, like, dump in a bunch of other colors of things and say, like, oh my gosh, isn't this so much more fun with all of these colors? And so I've seen parents do things like that, and I really admire, because the visual of it it makes it so much easier for kids.
Yeah, I mean, a little color goes a long way. There's a reason why the coloring page starts white and then you add all kinds of different colors to it, right?
Right. Well, and then on top of that, people say that kids don't see skin color, but studies have shown, so I just want you to guess really fast. If you had to guess at what age children start noticing major differences in people, including like skin color, eye color, tone of voice, hair, maybe not eye color, it's hair, skin color, tone of voice.
I'm going to go from life experiences with kids that have been like, what is going on? I'm started like 6 months.
It's actually 3. So at 3 months, kids are already starting to be like, I understand your tone of voice. I know your skin color. I know hair types, right? We've all seen videos of little kids that, like, dad shaves off his beard or shaves off all of his hair, and the kids are like, not a chance.
Guys, we were going to do that to my kids. We were going to do that to with my hair, and then I couldn't. It's like, I can't. And now years later, we have a 3-year-old that's like never even seen, like, she's only seen pictures of me without it.
Yeah.
Like,
but you've seen them. Like, kids are like, not a chance. I'm not coming to you. I don't even know who that guy are, right? And then all of a sudden, dad will talk, and they're like, but wait a second, you sound like my dad, but you don't look like my dad, because they notice those things. And so people want to say, like, well, kids don't know. And it's like, yes, they do.
We actually experienced this with our little niece.
Yes.
Remember? So our little niece, she came over. We were watching her, and she's actually 3 months old. Mom went and got her hair did. All right, came back with braids. And normally our little niece, she don't really like us that much. She don't like human beings. She spent some time in the hospital and is kind of it didn't come out great, but
very, very
attached
to mom.
Yep. And Mom came back, hair did, looking beautiful.
Okay,
right?
But first, she didn't want anything to do with us the whole time we were watching her.
No, wanted nothing to do with this. Mom came in the door. She looked at her and was like, something's wrong. And immediately went to Chelsea. She was like, I have never needed my auntie more than in this moment right now, and would not go to Mom for days.
Yes.
It took like midnight the next day or something like that for her to be like, I guess you are my mom.
Yes, she was, and it's crazy because she had braids before, but she had taken them out for a while. I don't know. It's like, it's so funny. Like, they really do notice. And so people are like, oh, they don't even notice. Yes, they do.
They notice right away.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so moving on, in a study that they conducted of 200 children, 100 black kids, 100 white kids, they asked them, so they're 3 years old and they're shown pictures of other children from different races and asked to choose who they might like to be friends with. Okay. 1/3 of black children said that they would be friends with other black children, while close to 90% of white children said that they would prefer to be friends with white children, right? So 2/3 of black children were like, I would be friends with a white kid. Sure, yeah. Like, I'll be friends with whoever. Only 10% of the white children, so only 10 kids said, sure, I'll be friends with somebody that's not white. Where the other 90 kids literally said, I would rather be friends with white kids.
And I bet you it's because we live in a world where when you're the minority, you're already used to that.
Yes.
And so that's already open. But when you aren't the minority,
right,
you're like, oh, this is new and I don't know that I feel comfortable with it, so maybe I won't.
Sure.
Right?
Well, maybe talk about your experience in elementary school. Who were your friends?
In elementary school, I had 5-7 core friends that I grew up in my neighborhood with, right? They're all white.
Okay.
There was actually one Latino kid that we used to hang out with. And then later on, there was a couple black kids that moved on in junior high, that moved in junior high and high school. So all my friends growing up were white, every one of them. There was family friends and stuff like that. But kids that I could ride my scooter to, there weren't no black kids close enough.
And what was that like for you as a kid?
It was just normal.
That's just all you knew?
That's all I knew. I didn't know nothing else.
Okay.
And so we had family friends and stuff like that because Haitians, we know each other, we hang out, but those guys were, a 15-minute drive and mom and dad weren't having that. So friends were the ones that I was with.
Well, the Haitian community here, sometimes Bedford will see someone and he'll be talking to him. And then I'm like, how do you, and he's like, oh, it's my cousin. And I'm like a real cousin? And he's like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. They're all related here. Yeah. So, okay. So I think.
So for me, it was nothing to hang out with white kids.
Yeah. So if you were given this test at 6 years old, you'd be like, yeah, sure, because that's what my friends look like anyway, right?
Yeah. And even 6 years old, I remember I had Josh Offley and some blonde hair chick, I can't remember, Allie Kirk, that's what it was. They're my friends. That was it.
Right.
White kids. And I think Josh might be half Latino or something like that. But I remember those were I had no problems hanging out with a group of different people.
Sure. And so, but then white kids, so your friends, right, at 9 years old, so the friends that you had, if they were shown those photos, they probably would have been like, yeah, I'll hang out with a black kid because I got a black friend right now. That's fine.
100%.
And so they account for that small percentage, right? Yeah. But again, you said you had 6 of them that you hung out with. So and you were the only black kid in your school. So that left the rest of the school
siblings
to only be I'm hanging out with these black kids or I'm hanging out with white kids, right? And so again, it's kind of what you're exposed to. Your reality is experience. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what that looks like. But then you go on from that, and in 2018, there was a study that said that over 1,500 animated TV characters, of those, 5.6% were black.
Static Shock, that was one of them. Yes. You remember Static Shock?
Yes. And then furthermore, in the programs that they sampled, 60% of those programs didn't have any diversity at all. So in 2018, 1,500 characters, only 5.6% of those were black. And these are animations. So they're for children, right? So kids are going to school and they're seeing other white kids. Then they're coming home and they're watching TV shows that have other white kids. And then 60% of the programs that they even looked at didn't have anything but white kids. And so kids are literally just learning this is normal, which is why the conversation we had last week was so important.
And that was 2018. That was 7 years ago?
Correct.
Yep. It's better now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll have Bedford attach it. So I actually have a curated list, and it has Netflix, Hulu, Apple, Disney Plus, and it has lists of shows that you can go to that have main characters that are diverse. And so we can attach that file so that you can have that.
Peep the show notes.
There's also a diverse reading list for your kids, and we can attach both of those. But again, if you didn't listen last week, it is so important that your kids are seeing the diversity at home because they might not have the opportunity to see it at school. So they need to see it at home and like not just watch it, but have regular conversations with your kids about what they're watching, right? If they ask questions about their hair, talk about it. Even if they don't ask questions, say, oh my gosh, look at their hair. It's so curly. It's so beautiful. Like have conversations with your kids about things that they're watching that are different from themselves.
So that they can proactively, appreciate it. Yeah.
We talked about this last week, but I kind of want to just address it again because something in my notes when I was teaching these courses made it even crazier. So the first Black character released by Disney or Pixar that is not an animal that is assumed to be Black or a servant to other white animations was Frozone in The Incredibles in 2004. Okay. So then obviously Princess and the Frog is the next. So from 2004 to 2009, the next Black animated character and like at all is Tiana in 2009.
That's the first princess.
Correct. I was 19 years old. My mom was 41. My grandma was 65 years old. So my grandma was 65 years old.
Went 65 years without a Black princess.
65 years without a Black princess. My mom went 41 years without a Black princess, right? Or even like Black characters. Because even for Frozone in 2004, my mom's in her 30s.
That had to be when you were 19. Frozone? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is that it's just like, so it's like my grandma is in her 60s before she's starting to see Black characters in Disney. And Disney Pixar is such a huge company.
They run everything.
Correct. And so it's like to be in your 60s before one of these large corporations that really controls so much of what you consume is releasing Black characters is such a huge deal. And so people will say like, oh, there's tons of representation. Like maybe now, but realistically, when you're looking at statistics, that has not always been the case. So,
that's crazy. 2009. And I remember Frozone. He was awesome.
Right. Isn't that crazy? So I think, you can kind of revert back to last week. Some of the things that we had talked about doing is like having diverse like action figures, having diverse Barbies. Maybe consider, as a white person, how would you, like if the roles were reversed, right? And you were going to the store and your child had like one white Barbie to pick from and like one white baby and the rest of them were all Black or brown. And, they went to the store and all of the main characters on the books were Black, except for this one white girl, right? Like how would you feel for your child, or what changes do you think would be necessary for your child? And I think that flipping that script is so important because we've had that experience, right? Maybe if you want to talk about the experience of getting a card for Jax for his baptism.
Yeah. So we're religious, right? We go to church, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That ain't no secret. And as members of that church, we get baptized when we're 8 years old. Okay. It's something that we do. And so when our oldest was getting baptized, turned 8, boom, we're about to get him a little celebration card. And I go to the store, I'm like, oh, that's crazy. All of these kids are white, which is real convenient when my kid's white. So like for me, I was like, I got 4 years to figure this out because I don't know what I'm going to do for my brown kids,
Right.
And so luckily I was able to, actually join a, diversity, equity, and inclusion round table and actually be able to help that solution there for our church. But it was real eye-opening to be like, cool, I got a white one. They're all white. I don't have not one. And I remember actually talking to one of the like global leaders from one of the distribution companies. They were like, what can we do to help, diversify and create equity and inclusion for everybody? And I was like, how about we start with this? And they were like, what do you mean we ain't got them? I was like, you ain't got them.
And everybody else that was on the board was like, yeah, that doesn't exist. And it was a quick one that was easy to fix.
They sent us, when they came out with them, they mailed them to
I
us so that we
almost
could
teared up
see.
because I was like, yo, this is huge. Because like they were like, I can't believe that this is such an easy mark to miss.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think it's crazy because unless you've been in that situation and you've had to really consider what that looks like to not be represented, then you don't necessarily think about how important it is to talk to your children about it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you've never had the experience of showing up to the store to try to find a card that for your kid and they just don't have one.
I want my kid to have a picture with Jesus, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Or, you know, on a further note, one time I was so Riker is like our most inquisitive child about these types of things. Like and we've talked about this, like with the football thing, like he notices that he stands out. And, one time we were at Old Navy, we're walking around through the store and he says, "What is that?" And I said, "It's a mannequin."
Yeah. Okay.
And he was like, "What's a mannequin?" And I said, "Well, they put clothes on it so that you can like get a vague idea of how it would look on you." And he's like, "Why are they all white?"
And
I was like, "I don't know." And he was like, "How am I supposed to know what it would look like on me?" Which, first of all, I'm like, "Kid, it's headless." So I don't.
We ain't going to talk about how it ain't got no hands and has metal bars for feet. But
like it mattered. It totally mattered to him. Like he was like, "Well, how am I supposed to know?" I mean, at this time, this kid is like 7 years old. Maybe 8. And
I think he was like 6 or 7.
Yeah, he was really young. And he's like, "How am I supposed to know what it looks like on me?" And I just was like, "You know what? I don't know. That's a good question." And then he goes, "You know what? It all looks good on me." And I was like, "Okay."
Swag on him, bro.
And he walked away. But then this lady next to me was like, "Oh my gosh." And she was like, "I have never even considered like what that would feel like for a child or for somebody that feels," and she was like, "I know that that's like maybe not a new experience for you, but that was a very new experience for me."
She was just eavesdropping.
Yeah. And she was like, and she's like, "I'm really sorry." And she's like, "I've never even had to consider what that's like." And, so kids notice, right? And so again, it's one of those things where that's why if you've never been in the position to be like, wow, this actually really matters and it is impactful, and I've never had to show up and be like, okay, well, none of this works for me.
And I think to a degree, a lot of people have been in that situation. They just don't realize that they have been in that. Like, right? So you always hear about people that, you know, if you're big and tall, right? They're like, they never make pants long enough.
Plus size stores,
or plus size, you know, plus size stores are like, they don't make clothes at Abercrombie and Fitch that fit. And they get mad about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yo, what's wrong with y'all? Right.
Right.
Or people with large feet or people with different size shoes. I've heard a lot of people like, how come I can't buy shoes one at a time? I got a size 12 on one and a size 11.5 on the other. You know, like, we've all been in the situation where some customization would actually go a long ways.
Right.
But like, you never actually think about it on a macro scale when it's like, it's not that custom to have different colored kids because the world actually looks like that.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep. There's actually this creator, and I mean, this pulls us a little bit off topic, but not really, because I feel like, so, I mean, my 7-year-old is definitely already starting to experiment with makeup. Right.
Yeah.
And and I'm not super strict about it. Like I love that she loves makeup. Okay.
And thanks, Auntie Q.
Yes. I mean, look at me. I don't really wear makeup very often. So she is definitely like not cut from my mold. And I think that's why I love it about her, is because she's just so uniquely herself. But I watched this creator, I want to say it's Glorilla. Anyway, she's a Black creator. She's
and not a rapper.
There's multiple, or Glory, but I think it might be Gloria. Let me look. I'm gonna pull it up right now
because I know who Glorilla is.
Yeah, but that might be Glory. Where is she? Anyway, so she is. I'm gonna find the account really fast. But she is a Black creator, and she. Okay, I just don't want to take up everybody's time. She's very dark. And what she does, though, is she buys the darkest shade of every foundation from every beauty company, and she puts it on. And she's like, this is the darkest shade. This. And it is like not even close.
Yeah, it's
and
like
she's
no
like,
effort made.
Yep. And she's like, no, this is not it.
And
like,
sometimes it's like, wow, like, hey, you didn't put, like, all you went with is just black pigment.
Yes.
Like, you didn't, there's a gap between, like, light brown to just, like, we going Sharpie black on.
Correct. And that's the thing is that, so she, like, calls out these companies because she's like, y'all have had so many years to
get it right.
Yeah. It's called, okay, so her account is Gloria, I think. So
yeah,
Gloria. And her account is incredible. Like, and it's been very eye-opening for me too. I like almost want you to be able to see this, and you probably can't, but like, it's not even close. You know what I'm saying? And so I've had to consider what that looks like the darkest shade of this makeup, right? But then she also goes further to show like the darkest shade of their like highlighter, right? Or the darkest shade. And she's like, look, this is what it looks like online, but then this is what it actually looks like on my skin. And I have started to have to consider what that looks like for my little girls, like my kids, you know, and as my girls are going into high school and they're wanting to like, is that industry inclusive? And so again, until you are in a position where you're like, cool, I can't find what I need. Like there is literally everything possible for everyone else, but there's nothing for me. You don't really consider what that's like, right? So again, having those conversations with your kids and talking about, why it's important to include everybody, why it's great that everybody looks different, and all of those things is so important. So, I think that the other thing too is that, even though they're little, they might not see so there's a child at Riker School and, he is brown. So I don't know why this happens, but, since Riker has known him, he runs around calling everybody the N-word, right?
Okay. Yep.
And, thinks it's funny and thinks it's a joke and, that it's super inappropriate. But a lot of kids don't necessarily know that that's a bad thing, right? And so, or a lot of kids do, but they don't necessarily know,
what to do with that information, quite frankly. Like, what is he, 8 years old?
Well, now they're 10, but when it first started, they were 7.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that the next kind of step is that, or, for example, a couple of years ago, there was a little girl. So there's another black girl that was at Riker School. They moved her because a little girl had gone up to her and said, I hope that another girl comes back here next year with your name and she's white so that she can be pretty. And they were in 2nd grade when that happened. Yep. 2nd grade. And so I think it's important to not just teach your children how to be inclusive and how to be kind, but then also to stand up when something is wrong, right? And 100%. Not necessarily to the other kids even, but to be
willing to have the conversation with the teacher or the adults in the room, because that goes a long ways. Because we've had already, with our 7-year-old and our 6-year-old, we talked about this. We've had kids say, well, you're not pretty because you're brown. Okay. Yeah. And they already know how to deal with that. We had to have that conversation already. But having backup would have been nice.
Right.
And quite frankly, I don't know what the other kids did. I wasn't able to get that from them because it hurt.
Yeah.
You know, but having backup or having someone stand up to them and having a team, because obviously a lot of times kids will do what the group does.
Yes.
Right? And so if you have 2 or 3 kids that have learned, hey, this is not right, we're not going to stand for it, I'm a snitch, it'll stop.
And so I actually had somebody comment on a post that I had put up last week, and she essentially had said, these are little kids. You have way too high of expectations for these kids. It's not a child's job to be aware of every diversity thing or every hard thing that somebody else is going through. And I absolutely agree. At no point in any of these podcasts do I want anybody to think oh my gosh, they're trying to
weigh our kids down.
Yes. And we're trying to place all of this responsibility on other children. But I think it's more just so if you consider the bystander effect in children, well, even in adults. So it's everybody knows what the bystander effect is, right? Like you kind of stand in a group and think like, oh, well, somebody else will do it. Somebody else will stand up for them. Somebody else will. But that's oftentimes why, like, look at George Floyd, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's oftentimes why things go so awry sometimes, because everybody else is just standing around hoping that somebody else takes control. Yeah. Like somebody else will do it. Somebody else will tell the teacher. Somebody else will stand up for them. Somebody else will step in and be their friend. Like, I don't need to do it because somebody else will. And that starts so young. And so it's important to teach our children, like, if you don't feel safe standing up for somebody, like, I don't want to step in there and get punched in the face, right? That person, like, then you tell a teacher or you go get help, right?
You don't have to pawn it off.
No.
Which is tough. Like, even as an adult, there's been times where I've been a bystander.
100.
Right?
I have too.
I've 100% done that. But there's also a lot of times, though, for me, and it's tough because I have this internal dialogue, like, will what I do help?
Sure.
And sometimes, like the last time that I can remember being the bystander, I knew for a fact that I couldn't help.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, for a perfect example, I'm at the gym. We're working out. I pull my headphones out. I'm about ready to leave. Some dude dislocates his shoulder while we're at the gym. Now, I run over there, and like 8 other people run over there with me at the same time. Now, I don't know nothing about putting the shoulder back in.
Yeah.
I'm one of 9 people. And somebody's already, started working with him. Somebody seemed to know what he was doing. Somebody else ran to go get the front office, and somebody was already on the phone with the police. At this point, I'm just there.
Yeah.
And I'm liable because I'm squirmish to throw up.
Sure.
Right. Right. So I'm like, yo, his shoulder's not doing what it's supposed to.
Right.
And I had to take a second to be like, I did. I was like, can I help the situation, or am I just going to throw up and make it worse?
Sure.
And so that was the last time I thought to myself, was like, but even having like, I had the right of mind to be like, all right, who's doing what? This guy seems to know what he's doing and putting the shoulder back in. These people are calling the police. These people are going to get the front office. Like, I think I'm like, is there anything more that I could add?
Yeah.
Right. And then I was like, nah, there ain't. So I left because I was like, I can't make this better. I can only make it worse.
Right.
But like, so I'm going to be the first person to say there are times where you're like, I don't know if I can make a difference. And if you do an assessment and realize that you can't make a difference, you're right.
Sure.
But like sometimes you just got to step up and step into it. Right.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why it's important for, because Riker came home and told us that this kid at school was saying the N-word after a long time. Like, it had been a while, right? And he had even said that some of his classmates were like telling Riker that, like,
technically he could say it.
Yeah.
And they didn't like it.
But they were like, we don't like that. We don't like that. Like, that's a bad word, right? And again, we're going to talk about this in another episode. It's actually next week, but nobody told the teacher, right? None of the kids went, they knew better, but they didn't necessarily like go and do something about it. And so teaching your kids to be able to use their voice on top of that, to be able to say like, I'm sorry that person said that to you, or to go and get the teacher, or to, that is a huge part of raising advocate children, right? Like we, as a white individual, I always ask myself, actually, I'm going to go back a little bit.
Okay.
I just had a thought.
Rewind then.
It's a little off topic, but I am going to address it anyways. So I have been getting a lot of comments lately.
Oh, here we go.
On a video.
All right.
Well, I'm going to abbreviate it, but sometimes online I get comments, and I'm very open to feedback. Okay. Again, I am like, I want to be the best version of myself for my husband, for my kids, for my grandkids, because they live a life, even though they're mine, right? And I am a part of that. They live a life that I will never understand. And I'm not naive to that. And I want to be the best version of myself for them. Like, I want to be able to show up appropriately. I want to be able to be empathetic where I can, and then know what else to do when I don't understand. And so I get a lot of feedback online, and I am very open to it. Like, I am very open-minded. I'm very open-hearted. Like, if I need to change something, please tell me, and I will talk, or like, I'll figure it out. But sometimes I get feedback that isn't really helpful or true. Like, for example, I've been getting a lot of feedback lately about how Bedford only married a single mom because she was white. He would never have married a single mom if she was black, right? And I was like, I finally sat down with Bedford and I said, can we have like a dialogue conversation around this? And he was like, why? It's ridiculous. And I was like, no, I just want to know. I want to talk about it because I want to know if there's something that I can do better here. Like, am I not being empathetic? Am I not being understanding? And I think that sometimes as an adult, it's hard to, like, I want to be a good ally, right? And so because of that, when people are giving me this feedback, sometimes I'm like, okay, let me think about it. What can I do? How can I be helpful? What can I do better? And I will break it down until I realize, like, okay, this isn't something I can change. But those types of habits are not easy, right? Like it took me a long time to kind of break down these barriers of like defensiveness to decide that I was going to start acknowledging where I needed to change so that I could do a better job.
Okay.
Now, all of that being said, it's hard to do that as an adult. So if we raise our children to advocate and to not just know when something's wrong, but to stand up and say when something is wrong, that becomes easier for them as adults, right? And it just becomes like a second nature behavior to evaluate a situation and say, what is my role in this? Like, can I do better? Could I change? Can I tell someone? How can I support this person? Because those are all things that I had to learn in adulthood. And I think that I would have done better if I would have known how to do that as a child.
Yeah, I mean, child mind is so malleable, right? We talked about this last week, right? It's never easier to learn another language than when you're a kid.
Right.
When you're an adult, you're like, I can't get it. It's rigid. Like, you're rigid.
Yeah.
And they always say you can't teach a new dog old dog new tricks. But it is just a lot easier to have the conversations young because it's easier to continue doing it once you're older.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, that's kind of where I would I think that that's a good place to
absolutely
end.
Pause.
And so, I mean, so next week, the next couple of weeks, I think are a little bit more intense because we have older children, right? Like older children that are having completely different experiences than some of our kids. That the experiences are heavier, right? And so we're starting to talk more about the use of the N-word, and we're going to talk a little bit more about like blackface, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of these things, like historically where they come from, you know, how to talk to your kids about them. Every Halloween, there's always some type of, you know, like some
annual
news,
debacle.
especially here. It's like some news article comes out where some kids were wearing blackface somewhere. So like things to talk to your kids about, and like how to have the heavier conversations about race. How are you going to address George Floyd with your kids, right? Like, how do you talk about things like that? So those are coming in the next couple of weeks, but you know, go ahead, drop your questions in the comment section, drop your thoughts, and like, subscribe, share.
Yep.
All the things.
And in the meantime, keep it blessed, right?
Yep.
So
thanks for coming.
Yep. See ya.